bit. So if anyone has to head out, that's fine, but I'll make sure that we cover everything we need to, just because we are recording this. We want to make sure everyone can see it later. So again, hi, my name's Scott. I'm a solutions engineer here at D2L. So I work, as Shamal said, closely with Shamal and several other sales reps from a technical standpoint. So I'll be running the demo today, and as we talked about earlier, we'll kind of go through Brightspace. I'll set the stage of what Brightspace looks like and kind of the navigation and our design ideas behind it, and then we'll look at kind of day in life of a faculty. So how to create a course and add content and manage the day-to-day things that you need to do. And then we'll also look a little bit into some of the analytics and the more data-driven tools that we have to help you make better informed decisions about what's happening in your courses. So as Shamal mentioned, we've been around for 20 years now. And with the platform, we actually are on our latest version, which is called Daylight. And this has been out for a little over 2 years, almost 3 years now. And 100% of our client base is currently on and using the platform that I'm going to show you today. So, unlike some of our competition where it's a bit of a newer product, with Brightspace, the platform that we're looking at today is the one that is out in the market. It's what everyone's using. And we're always updating and iterating and making it an even better platform than it currently is today. So I'm really excited to show you what we have, and if you have any questions as I'm going throughout, please let me know, and I'm happy to stop and we can answer those. But otherwise, we'll just kind of go through Brightspace. So first and foremost, as I mentioned, 3 years ago, we totally reconfigured the platform and released our Daylight experience, which all of our client base is now on. So with Daylight, a couple major things came through. First was we wanted to make it easier for faculty and students to do their day-to-day activities, to try and minimize clicks, to make it so that the tools that you're trying to use and the functions you're needing are easy to surface and easy to find. The also major update we did in that update was the ability to have it completely mobile responsive. So we've made Brightspace an entirely mobile responsive platform. That means all functions, all tools, everything you need to do is accessible across any device without the need of an app or a plugin. And this rings true for faculty and for students, as well as administration. So any user in Brightspace can do anything they need to, whether they have an old iPhone, a brand new Android device, a tablet, Mac, PC, Chromebook, whatever you have, as long as you have a web browser, you can get into Brightspace and do everything that you need to do. So to show you what that looks like, if we shrink our screen down here, we're about the size of a tablet now. And you'll notice as I start to shrink even further, menus will condense and the text will shift around. And then once we get down to about the size of a phone, everything has now stacked vertically, but there's no side scrolling, there's no pinching and zooming. Everything's all available for thumb navigation. So if I was on my phone, I could still click through and access all the tools and all the functions that I need right from here. One thing you'll notice that's very different about Brightspace is our navigation is at the top of the page. So we've done that because it allows us to surface more content and have more screen real estate dedicated to the tools that you're using, rather than losing some of the left-hand navigation to a menu. So again, if we go back down to the size of a phone, you'll notice there's no menu on the left-hand side. My menu is now condensed up here at the top, which allows me to see everything I'm looking at without having to, again, side scroll or pinch and zoom. With navigation, a couple things here at the top. So this white bar is what we call our Minibar. This is available all the time, so no matter where you are in Brightspace. And it gives you quick access to go home to the home page. Through the waffle icon, you can access all of your courses. So this is both current and old courses, whatever's still available to you in your account. And a really nice function of being able to pin and unpin courses, so that if you're currently teaching 5 courses this semester, you can pin them. They'll be right at the top, easy to access, and any older courses will be at the bottom. So you can still access them if you need to, but you won't have to sift through a list of everything to find those current courses. You can pin them and have them at the top. The next section here, these 3 icons, this is our notification panel. So this is where you'll get updates to things like your email or instant messages that are coming through the system. Any subscription alerts for discussion boards you may have aligned yourself to. And for the bell here, this is when any major happenings go on in your course. So if new content is added or new assignments are submitted to, or anything kind of at a high level, you'll get a notification there. Through the profile itself, as an instructor, I can switch over to student view. So if I want to replicate the platform as a student would see it, Really easy to jump into that and see exactly what the students would see. If you do have any TAs or guest accounts or advisors or anybody else that you're able to kind of monitor within the system, you can always switch into those roles as well. And so within Brightspace, there's essentially no limitations on how roles are created. We have over 500 different permissions, so it allows your administration team to get very, very granular as far as how users are interacting with Brightspace, what tools they can see, how they're coming into the platform. Really nice administration function to be able to control every user group within the system. A few other things here in the profile, through profile, notifications, and account settings. This is where users can go to configure the experience to their own needs. So being able to, through notifications, set up things like text alerts. So if announcements or discussion posts or new assignment submissions, you can configure those to come in as a text as well as email. Through account settings, you can alter things like font size. For anyone with visual impairment, you can increase the font size. You can switch to an open dyslexic font to make it really easy to navigate the platform to suit your needs. And on the regards of accessibility, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but Brightspace has won several awards for our accessibility functionality. We ensure that every tool, every area, everything that we produce is tested with all of the different screen reader technologies and make sure we adapt to all the different learning modalities so that there's no barriers to education. It's why we've been chosen for the Canadian Institute of the Blind and the National Federation of the Blind. They're currently using our systems to deliver their materials. From the homepage itself, Brightspace is a widget-based platform. So these different tiles here are widgets. Your administration team can configure these however they need to display whatever information they want. So whether that be things like Office 365 or the Google integration, whether that be announcements, a calendar, my courses, a Twitter feed, whatever information they want to have on the homepage, it's very easy to set that up. And you also have this flexibility in widget-based system on your course homepages as well. Any questions so far about platform layout and design or anything that we've gone over so far? No?
No.
Okay. So we'll go into the English course and I'll just show you kind of what it looks like from the instructor side on, again, building a course and adding content. And from a navigation standpoint, as I mentioned, it is also a widget-based platform. So a few widgets we've got here that are really nice from the course level. This one here is one of my favorites, the visual table of contents. It gives a really nice view of all of the content in the units and everything that's in that course. And from the student perspective, these progress bars will actually fill up as they complete content. So it gives them a really clear indication of where they are in the course, how much work they've done versus how much they have coming up. And whenever they need to continue, they just click on this little blue arrow here and they'll get right into that content where they left off. A few other ones that are really nice, the My Instructor widget. I know that you guys are looking at bringing some fully online programs soon. The My Instructor widget is something really simple to set up. You can have your profile and a picture of yourself and some information, but it really helps those distance ed students get a kind of a feel for who the instructor is and who it is that's actually running their courses when they don't have that face-to-face interaction. So again, a really easy widget to set up, but has a lot of power behind it. The final piece for navigation is this gray bar here. Of course, you can change the color, but this is the navigation bar. So this is quick access to all the tools you're using on a regular basis. If your administration team allows, this is another thing that you as an instructor could configure. So if you needed to add in additional links, maybe to outside sources or to additional tools within Brightspace, really easy to drop those in. You can also take things out. So as an example, in your course, if you're not using discussions, very easy to take that out so it's not showing up in the list of items here. One thing we have done to make things easier for faculty is basically to condense most of our tools into the content tool. So from within the content tool, this is where you'll actually go to build your course structure, where you'll add your content, where you'll build your assessments. You can even manage your dates from within this tool as well. So kind of your one-stop shop for almost everything you need to do from the faculty side of things. So first thing we'll notice on the left-hand side is my table of contents. Really easy to build new content structures in Brightspace, and there's no limitations on how your courses are built. So if you want it to be weeks or units or modules or If you want to have nested folders and submodules within submodules, really easy to set that up. And so in this case, I'm going to work in a unit-based system. So I'm just going to click Add a Module, and we'll enter in Unit 3, which is my fiction module. From here, once that module has been created, I now have the ability to add in content. And this can all be done via drag and drop. So Brightspace supports the ability to drag and drop multiple files, multiple file types, and you can drag them all at one time directly into the tool. So I'm going to grab an image, a PowerPoint, a couple Word documents, and a PDF. I grab those in and just drag them right into the system. So what this does is automatically makes them available and ready for students to view. It also wraps them in HTML. And so what that means essentially is that just by dragging and dropping, I've now made all of this content mobile accessible as well. So when students come in on their phone or on their tablets, they don't need to download the documents. They don't need to have any special plugins or apps. It's all visible right in line in the browser. And the conversion actually keeps the original formatting and styling and everything I had in the document before. It's just now made it in a web accessible version. As you can see here when looking at the document, we also have the ability to download if we need to. So you can allow students to download your content. They can download one item at a time, or they can download an entire module worth of content. And for accessibility purposes, we've also given students really easy access to be able to alter the content from a page view to a text view. And so what that does is it makes it easier for screen readers to work through the content. It actually takes out the extra kind of noise and the extra things in the document that are sometimes hard to navigate in screen readers. It makes it very easy for students to be able to get in and view the content as you've created it for them. So we'll go back to our homepage here for Unit 3. As I mentioned, really easy to drag and drop your content in. We can also grab and drag and reorder our module. So if I need to move Unit 3 up in the list, all I have to do is grab and drag and reorder that. You can reorder content within the module as well. So I can bring the Art of Fiction up to the top. I can drag and drop between modules. So once your content's in, it's really easy to manage and move it around. In respect of content though, I understand that you're currently using Moodle. So I just want to talk a little bit about how we migrate your content over from Moodle to make sure that you're not losing all the work that you've already built. So part of our implementation process and bringing you into the Brightspace environment is we actually will work with your team to migrate all of your content and your courses over into Brightspace. So the way that works is we will generally test between 5 and 10 courses. We've actually built our own conversion tools, which allows us to make tweaks to the conversion process as those courses are coming over. So when we test those 5 or 10 courses, we'll work with you to see exactly how everything's coming over. Is it looking exactly the way you want it to come from Moodle? I won't lie and say that it's going to be 100%, but we can get pretty close to perfect when migrating that content over. So once we've worked with you and we've tested out those courses, we then will bring over your next 10, 20, or 30,000 courses, 40,000 courses. No limit on how many courses we bring over, and there's no hidden charges for that. So that's all part of our core implementation services to make sure that all of the content you have in Moodle comes with you into the Brightspace environment. For building new content though, as I mentioned, so dragging and dropping Word documents and things you've created before. But if you'd like to create some new content for students, through the upload and create button here is where I can start to add new content. So whether that be audio and video, new HTML files or new web pages, SCORM objects, things from our central learning object repository. You also have the option to build new assignments, as I mentioned earlier. So instead of having to go into an assignment tool and build from there, you can actually build it right in the content tool as you're creating your courses. So the first thing we'll look at is creating a new file. So this would be like creating a new content page for students to view without bringing in a Word document or something like that. So in this case, we'll create our fiction readings. And the first option I have here is to use a document template. The document templates are really nice because it allows you to have a pre-configured structure to all of your content items so that everything you create has the same look and feel without you having to recreate that every single time. These can be built by your administration team. They can be pulled from our library of pre-created content, or they can be brought in from our community as well. So in this case, I'm going to create a file with some images. And as you can see here, it just automatically populates with some headings, with some text. Maybe the font size and color are things that are predetermined by my administration. And all I need to do is highlight over the text and type in, and it will keep that formatting and styling. Again, in regards to accessibility, you can ensure that these document templates are fully accessible, again, with font size and color before they go out for use, so that you know that all the content you're creating is automatically accessible. But there is an accessibility checker as well, which I'll show you in a second. In creating the document, though, if there's other things I'd like to do, at the top here, I have access to all of the standard functions from a document creation standpoint, so font size and color, being able to insert tables. One of the more unique functions in Brightspace is the ability to automatically include equations. So for any math and science faculty, very easy to drop in and create equations right in the system rather than having to do it on a third-party tool.
Can you click on
Yeah, for sure. Which one would you like to see?
the math tool? Yeah.
The graphical equation?
Right.
Yep. So I am not very strong in creating math formulas, but has the ability to do, all the different symbols that you need, arrows with boxes, and whenever you see a box here is where you'd actually fill in the text. So this is a kind of a standard graphical equation editor, from what I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So we do also support copy and paste. So if you do have another tool that you're used to using that you're comfortable with, you can just copy and paste that in to the system as well. But a lot of our math and science faculty currently using Brightspace love the feature of just being able to build it right in line. For more multimedia or adding in other things, we have a very appropriately named Insert Stuff tool, which allows you to insert stuff into your content. So if you want to bring in files from your computer, you can actually record a video note, which uses your webcam. This can be your webcam on your phone or your tablet or your computer, and you can record a 5 or 10 minute long video and embed that right into your content item. Really easy to support the use of things like YouTube or Vimeo, or if you're using Kaltura, Panopto, any video editing software, we can include that in links here as well, so that it's very easy to grab those files from your library and drop them right into your content. This HTML editor does also support drag and drop. So this fiction image here, if I wanted to drag and drop that in, whoops, I can drag and drop that right into the content. Same with video. If you had an MP4, you can drag and drop that right into your content item. As I mentioned with the accessibility checker, essentially what it does is scans the whole document for any accessibility concerns, whether that be, again, font size or color. In this case, it's alerting me that I don't have alt text aligned to this image. And so all I need to do here is walk through the steps on how to fix that alt text. So I add in the alt text, I just click Repair Issue. It's now going to tag that image, and I can move on. It's going to rescan the document and say, all right, everything's good to go. This document is fully accessible. So again, really easy to understand what's happening and how to fix it to meet those accessibility requirements. From here, I can save and close, and now that document is created, ready for students, and it's a fully mobile-friendly document. As I mentioned earlier, within the content tool, you also have the ability to create your assessments. So you may be used to things like quizzes and assignments and discussions, but in Brightspace, we also have the ability to create a checklist as well as a survey. So a checklist would be, maybe a list of items that students need to have purchased, or maybe things that they need to have done in order to have completed an assignment. You can build that checklist and set dates on each item in the checklist, and the students have to go in and then check them off, and then you can kind of keep a record and track that. For surveys, much like any other survey tool, you have the ability to run class surveys through this. You have the ability to run in-class surveys just to get a pulse on how students are doing. And we do also have the ability to run a branching path survey. So students have the option to choose A or B, and then if they choose B, now they have options for X and Y, where they can branch off into different pathways. So a lot of power behind those surveys. We are seeing a lot of schools start to use them for, again, things like in-class surveys or even end-of-term surveys for instructor or class feedback. So really great tool to have right in the system. As far as assessments go, though, I guess I'll leave it up to you guys. Is there one that you use more than the other? Are you using more kind of assignment-based, where students are submitting content and documents, or are you running more quiz-style assessments?
I would like to look at the quizzes.
Quizzes, for sure, yeah. So we'll create a new quiz. So we'll call this our fiction quiz. Again, in the instructions, I have the ability to use our HTML documents to create really nice and rich instructions. Maybe videos can go in there or audio clips. And then once I actually go into setting up the quiz, I have the ability to add new questions. So first thing, when you're adding questions, you have the option to import. So if you're using any third-party resources like publisher content or things like ExamSoft or ExamView, you can build your quizzes in there and then just import them right into Brightspace. Same thing if you're building all your quizzes in Excel, just drag and drop that file in and it'll create all those quiz questions for you. As part of the migration from Moodle, though, we'll make sure that all of your quizzes and your library, as well as the quizzes you built, that structure all comes in as well, so you can pull right from your question library if you've already got that built. To create new questions, you have a couple options here. So we do support the option to build question pools, which would be, here's 20 questions, give 10 to every student. You can divide them up by sections if you need to as well. Or you can just create a new question. So for some of our question types, kind of the standard true, false, multiple choice. We do also have some really nice arithmetic and significant figure questions. So again, anyone math or science focused, the ability to set a variable range a range on the variables so that each student has a completely different experience with different numbers. You can set those questions up as well. But for today, we'll look at a multiple choice question. And let's see if anyone has a keen ear. So you'll notice first off, as I'm typing out the question, on the right-hand side, you get a live preview of the question as it's being built. These boxes are all also HTML boxes. So if I want to use our equation editor, I can build equations right in line. As the answers, I can add in audio and video to those, or I can even bring in images. So let's say we add in this little guy here. All right, so I can now add in, I can drag and drop images to make it much easier to provide more engaging assessments rather than just text-based. So again, you can have a video for students to watch with 4 responses. Or what we've seen from some nursing schools, which is really cool, have a question just be something like, what's the proper procedure for inserting an IV into someone's arm? And then have 4 videos for the students to watch. So they have to watch the videos and then choose the correct one. We've also made it really easy to add in additional functions within your quiz. So if you want to add in response-specific feedback, or if you want to add in custom weighting to say, maybe Canada is 100% and space is maybe 50% correct. I can add in new answers, I can remove answers, I can randomize for each student. And the nice thing about the way we've built it is that if you include options like adding in response-specific feedback or custom weighting, the next time you build a question, those options will be pre-selected. We kind of understand that most faculty will use the same tools over and over and over again. And by adding it right into the question creation process, makes it very easy to find, but also having it saved makes it easier so you don't have to reselect that every single time. So again, those with a keen ear, yes, I am from Canada. So that would be the correct response. And again, I'm a little bit spacey, so we'll make that 50%. I can randomize, and again, I can add in feedback all throughout. So when my students are reviewing this, they can see feedback for even each specific response that we've put in. And save that, and then just go on building new questions. Some of the other settings within the quizzes themselves, which are really nice. Almost everything in Brightspace, you can set a due date, start date, and an end date on. So the difference between a due date and an end date would be, this is when you want it due to the system. End date is the final time that you can work on it. So if this was maybe a more self-guided quiz, and you wanted to say it was, due on Friday the 13th, but you have until Monday to complete it with a small penalty, you can set that up and it will alert you if any student submits beyond the due date. We can also attach release conditions to almost everything in Brightspace. So one thing that's unique to us is our list of over 30 conditions, including our not conditions. So it's looking at, has a student not done something yet? So with the case of this quiz, maybe, we want to give the students the quiz if they have failed the last assignment, or if they haven't looked at all the content items yet, or, maybe they get to do the quiz once they've completed all the content items. Another thing we're seeing that's much more popular, especially in an online environment, is a more self-directed learning path where students can actually complete a checklist and choose their preferred assignment type. So, maybe you want to give them the option to do a multiple choice quiz or maybe do a short essay. And they just choose that option on the checklist. Using the branching paths in our release conditions, they'll just release out the assignment that they choose. Again, it doesn't have to be done, but it gives you a lot of flexibility on how your courses can actually be delivered. But in this case, I can say the student has to visit all the content topics in order to be able to complete this quiz. So they can't do this quiz until they've read through everything I've made available. Quizzes, you can also set a password on. You can do an IP restriction. So, if you have a quizzing center on campus that students have to be in to take quizzes, you can lock that down just to that area. Time limits, and then the ability to align special access. So special access would be things like, if a student needs an additional attempt on the quiz, or if they need an extended due date because they were sick, or if they need more time because of accessibility concerns. You have the flexibility to control all of these options for just individual students or even groups of students. The final thing I'll mention here with quizzing setup is the ability to associate learning objectives. So if you're ever looking to use learning objectives, if you're ever kind of going to the place where you might be looking at outcome-based learning, it's very easy in Brightspace to align a learning objective. You can see here we have a kind of a cascading platform, so you can see at all the different levels, what the different learning outcomes are, whether they're program specific or institution specific, and you can drill all the way down to the course themselves. So in this case, maybe we'll say this one is the analyze and compare learning objective the student needs to master. And that folds into the analytical reading, which folds into their institutional skills. So very easy, I just select analyze and compare. Now that's been added. And now I have the ability to actually associate individual questions as well as the entire quiz itself to a learning objective. So if you ever had a scenario where you had maybe one quiz that covers 5 different learning objectives, really easy to associate those individual questions to each learning objective. Now all the students have to do is complete the quiz. You'll get a full report on exactly which learning objectives were mastered and which were failed, where the students are struggling, and then you can report back on that if you need to. Any other questions about quizzes? Anything I didn't cover that you maybe were looking for that you didn't see?
One question I have, and I think you may have addressed it. So if we had a student that needed a time accommodation,
yep.
Would that be that tool at the bottom, which you showed near the end?
Yeah, so that's through the special access. So we just click add users to special access. Again, if you needed to adjust the time limit that they had, maybe every student gets an hour and the student gets 90 minutes. You can adjust that time limit. You can change the start date and end date. You can give them additional attempts. And then you just choose the student or students that meet those requirements.
And then that only shows up for that student with those options.
Exactly. Right. Yep. Exactly.
Okay.
What are everyone's thoughts otherwise? Like, do you find this easy to use so far? Would just love to get thoughts on the quizzes and course creation that Scott just showed.
To me, it seems fairly straightforward. As I'm watching, I'm thinking of Moodle, and it's doing the same things as Moodle. I think some things look like they may be easier to implement than you might be in something like Moodle, but it all seems pretty straightforward.
It always looks easier when someone else is doing it.
Yeah, I think, again, we made a lot of strides recently in making things just easier to access, less clicks. We're always iterating and updating on our tools. But you're right, I think definitely coming from Moodle, I think you'll find in Brightspace that not only are things maybe easier in certain respects, but you'll also have much more functionality. So Brightspace is really a great platform to be able to grow into. All the tools and everything you need, we've already thought of. It's all already there and ready to go. So, you know, if as an example, if you're not ready to use release conditions, you know, the first day, that's fine. You don't have to add them in. But then as you start to go through the course, you could say, you know what, it'd be really cool if I could, you know, maybe send some extra content to students who are struggling. You know, if they complete the fiction quiz and they get less than 60%, maybe we want to just automatically send them some extra work to go through. So you can use a release condition just to send out that extra work based on their score. Another thing we can do that's really cool is automate a lot of the messaging that you're doing throughout your day-to-day life in your classes. So our Intelligent Agents tool actually uses those release conditions and a few other triggers to automatically send out messages to students. So as a few examples here, you know, if a student doesn't sign in 7 days, you could have that at the top administrative level. It flows to all the courses. So any student who doesn't sign in 7 days automatically gets an email into their inbox. For day-to-day life in a class, you could do things like positive reinforcement. So whenever the student completes the poetry quiz, they're going to get if they get above 70%, they get an email from me saying, hey, great job on the last quiz. It looks like you're really, you know, getting the content. It saves me as an instructor from having to go through all of the data, see who's done well, who hasn't done well, find a way to email them and get a hold of them. You can just set these up and they'll just automatically run whenever a student triggers the parameters. These also will copy from course to course. So you set them up once, and then as you teach the course semester over semester, you can add new ones, you can delete them, but they'll all come with you as you move forward into your courses. And so what these actually do is, so in this case, we're looking at 7 days without logging in. So I can define how many days that is that the student hasn't logged in. Again, I can gate them behind release conditions. So, you know, because in Brightspace, because we have those not conditions, you could also set up a message to say, if a student hasn't submitted to an assignment and it's due on Friday, send a message out to them and let them know, hey, you know, you haven't submitted to this yet. It's due tomorrow. Make sure you're completing your work before it's too late. So again, automatic reminders set up. So, you know, especially in online programs, tools like release conditions, tools like Intelligent Agents, that's kind of unique to Brightspace, allows you to automate a lot of that stuff and make sure that student retention is really high without having to manually sift through all of the data and look at all the interactions in the system. And so what enables us to do this really nicely and easily at scale is the use of what we call replace strings. So we'll tell you what the replace strings are. So you can say, you know, what email addresses can I use, and we'll tell you exactly what they are. But what this does is this is going to automatically bring in the student's email. In this case, I've also included their academic advisor. So if they have an academic advisor they're working with, we can have them triggered automatically on these messages as well. And then in the message, it's going to bring in their first name. It's going to bring in the last date they logged in and the URL they click in to go back into their content. So now this student gets an email that says, hey, Scott, you haven't signed in since December 4th. Here's where you click to get back in your content. Let us know if we can help. So again, really driving retention, really making sure that no student's left behind based on inactivity or you know, based on just not being visible enough through all the data. Made it really easy to automate this process for you.
Any thoughts on that piece?
No, that's great. No, that works.
Great.
Awesome. So I want to spend a little bit of time looking at grading, how to manage kind of the more kind of the end of the course stuff, not the day-to-day and actually creating the course. So first off, in our gradebook, we're going to look at all of our users here. So first off in the gradebook, our gradebook is probably the most flexible gradebook on the market. We allow you to have any sort of grading scheme you can think of, whether that be percentage-based, pass-fail, if you need letter grades, if you need text box, whatever you need in your gradebook, we'll support that for you. And one of the best functions of Brightspace is our setup wizard. So it's a 7-step process. Takes you through everything from defining how you want your grading system to be. Is it weighted categories? Is it point-based? Being able to choose how grades are released to students, default grading scheme for each assignment, and then how it's displayed to students as well. So we take you through the 7-step process. You can do it any time in the semester if you want to change how your grading schemes are done. But that's going to set up, how things are actually delivered. And then through Manage Grades is where you can go through to set up things like categories. So because I went with a weighted gradebook, I can have different categories with different weighting schemes on them. So, 25% for quizzes and 35% for assignments. You can just add those assignments into that category and it will automatically distribute the grades. Or you can manually distribute the grades as well to say, I don't want them all to be worth 10%. I want them to be, this one's 15, this one's 20, this one's 10, and it will distribute after that as you need it. So again, any gradebook scheme you can think of, we can configure. You can also really easily import and export. So export comes out as an Excel document or a CSV, and you have the ability to export the entire gradebook or just individual items. So as an example, if you wanted to, maybe grade some assignments that you don't want to grade in Brightspace for whatever reason, you can export just the assignments category, add in all the grades, and then import just that column back in. That'll bring in all those grades just for that area and leave everything else untouched. If you like to just type in numbers, you can also switch to a spreadsheet view. And this turns the whole gradebook basically into an Excel document where you can type in all the different numbers as you need to, adjust scores, maybe if you want to give students bonus marks or take away marks. Really easy to go through, and you can actually tab through all of these columns as well, so you don't need to even touch your mouse. Our gradebook also allows you to grade directly from the gradebook. So anywhere you see this orange dot means that the student has submitted something new. So I can go in and grade any one of these. Let's actually look at Amy's submission here. So first and foremost, when you look at the document, when you open it up, it actually is converted to HTML. So much like documents, when you submit them, for students to view, we're also going to surface it in HTML, which allows you to use our annotation tool. So this is our own in-house built annotation tool. You have the ability to freehand write with like a pen. You can highlight, just a freehand highlight, or you can even highlight just specific text. You can change the color of everything. You can change the opacity, so how dark or how heavy the highlighting is. You can add in notes. So notes are things that will just show up whenever you hover over them. You can move those around. Again, you can change the color and what image is used for that note. You can add in a text box, so this right here. So unlike a note where you have to hover over it to see it, you can have that text live on screen all the time for students to see. Students can view all of this. They can just download this marked up document, see all of your annotations and your notes, and it actually will keep a version history. So if the student has multiple submissions, they can see every single version of the document that you've marked up. The other really nice function of this is you have the ability to provide annotations and mark up a document without actually aligning a score as well. So if it's a first draft and you don't want to put a grade on it, you can mark up, annotate, and just send that back to the student without any other feedback if you want to. On the right-hand side here is where you can actually do your grading. So I can increase and decrease this window size if I need to. But first and foremost, I have the ability to grade from a rubric. So a really nice function of our rubrics actually is that you have the ability to pre-populate feedback into your rubric. So if you're always saying the same thing for a 5-point or a 3-point, and you have a Word document that you cut and paste from all the time, Brightspace allows you to pre-configure that feedback right in the rubric. So as you can see here, when I choose the different points, this criteria feedback is going to update. So as I go through, all I need to do is just select the different values. The feedback gets pre-populated in. I can even pre-populate feedback overall based on overall score. And then once I close out, that feedback automatically populates in the window. So it updates the score as well as updates the feedback window. From here, I can also add in audio and video. If I want to add more multimedia to my responses, I can add files, maybe as an example file for students to view. And I can use our insert stuff tool. So if there's anything else I need to bring in, I can add that content right in. So being an HTML box, really flexible on how that feedback looks to the students. To make grading even easier for you, we've built a new tool, and this actually came directly from our community. So this tool is called Quickeval, and what Quickeval does is actually consolidates all of your grading into one hub. So this looks at all of your different courses that you're currently teaching, whether they be assignment submissions, quizzes, or even discussion boards. It brings them all into one location. You can filter by the different assignments. So if you want to filter into one specific activity, or if you want to filter into one specific course, or even date of submission. So look at anything in the last 24 hours as an example. In this case, I'm going to look at, say, your first plan as an assignment, and I can see I have 3 submissions here for my students. To grade, all I need to do is click on that student's name, and now I'm right in the grading window. So now I can see their document. Again, I can annotate and mark up the document. I can use rubrics if we have rubrics aligned. I can add in scores. I can add in feedback. I can do all of that from one page here. Once you click publish, that assignment would be removed from the list. So we would be from 3 down to 2 and just continue on the list. The other view we've given you is a more graphical view of what's going on in your courses. So it breaks it down by course. You can see all the assignments that are currently in your course. And then kind of moving across the different columns, these kind of 3 dials show you in a really visual representation of where you're at with your grading. So I can see here 5 out of my 7 students have actually completed the assignment. I've evaluated 5 out of 7, and I've only published 2 out of the 7. And when you hover over, you have the option to go into these. So if you want to go in and start evaluating those 2 new submissions, or if you want to publish all of your assignments at one time. So what you could actually do is go through, mark up all the documents, provide the feedback and the grades, and hold those back, and then just come in here, click publish all, and it'll send all the feedback and the grades and everything to the students in one click. So again, kind of the genesis of Quickeval was faculty were telling us we want somewhere easy to go so I know exactly what's in front of me for grading. If I only have an hour in between classes, how do I know how to focus? And again, that's exactly where Quickeval came from.
And just to allude to the community that Scott mentioned, so we have an environment within the Brightspace community where clients, so this could be on the administration side or faculty, actually put forward ideas that get upvoted. And about 30% of our monthly product updates come from those ideas directly from our clients. So this was actually one of the most requested feature. A lot of faculty were looking forward to it, and so far we've gotten great feedback.
Yeah, it's been really, really well received.
Mm-hmm.
To Shamal's point, though, just to kind of give you guys some back-end idea of what happens in Brightspace, we send out monthly updates, and we contractually guarantee 99.9% uptime. So what that really means is Brightspace will never be down. You'll never have to worry about updates coming through and shutting down the whole system at 2 in the afternoon when you're working on, working with your courses or with your students. We guarantee that Brightspace will always be ready and available for you, but that you'll also have the latest version of Brightspace. Another really nice feature of how we do our updates is we will actually send anything that's disruptive to workflow to your administration team first, and then they get to turn it on when they're ready. So if we change the way you build quizzes, or if we change the way you grade in the gradebook, you'll never see that come through in the middle of the semester. Your administration team might. They'll see that they can play around with and test it out, but that's never going to hit you. So you never have to worry about things changing in a drastic way in Brightspace. It's always going to be when your administration team deems it available. But again, new things like Quickeval or new cool functions that we add in, you'll get those on a regular basis, and you can always expect the latest and greatest version of Brightspace. A few other things I want to mention, just kind of from a high level in Brightspace. A few other functions we have. If anyone is looking to do video assignments, we have a really nice video assignment tool that's part of our core platform. It allows students to record videos that are maybe a little bit longer, so 10, 20, 30 minutes long. They can record those and upload those as their submission, and then you can go through and actually make timestamp comments on that. Another function we have in is our virtual classroom tool. So again, if you're looking to grow online, you can actually use our virtual classroom tool, which is very much like Zoom that we're using today, with the ability to have webcam sharing. You can have live chat functionality, desktop sharing. You can actually annotate and mark up your desktop as students are viewing it. This can all be recorded and shared with students at a later date. So if anyone misses your online lectures, you can record and share that, or you could just pre-record everything and have that up there for students to view whenever they're ready. The last thing I want to touch on today is some of the kind of metrics and analytics behind Brightspace and what we give to you to understand what's happening in the system. So first off, from a class level view, we have a really nice tool called Class Progress, which is essentially a bird's eye view of what's happening in your course. It looks beyond grades and looks at actual engagement into content. There's 10 different metrics that we can pull from, and you can choose which metrics are surfaced. In this case, I'm looking at content completion and learning objectives, as well as some grades. So any one of these students I can look into, maybe we'll look at Michael since it looks like he's struggling a little bit. So first I can look into his learning objectives, see what objectives he started, which ones he hasn't started, which ones he's failed, and exactly what activities are aligned to those objectives and what thresholds were required to meet that objective. I can now look into content. So it looks like maybe he's struggling in poetry. I can go into Unit 1 poetry and see all the different items I've delivered, how much time he spent, what is he looking at, what is he not looking at, to get a clearer understanding of what he's doing in the class. From one screen, I can also look at all of his discussions. So these different threads that are aligned to him, I can see what the different topics are, where he's read posts, where he's replied, where he's created new threads. I can see where his activity has been in the discussion boards as well. If I ever need to reach out to Michael, so say I've gone through all this and I understand that I might be struggling, I can just highlight over his name. I can send him a quick email or even an instant message. So start communication right away, right from the screen. A few other tools we've built. These actually come with part of the purchasing package that you're aligned to. So you guys are aligned to a purchasing consortium called Eni. E&I. Essentially, they're the largest purchasing consortium in North America for higher education institutes. And with that, they've actually selected Brightspace as the only vendor for an LMS. So they went through a very detailed, deep member-led evaluation process of all the different LMSs. And they had the option to choose multiple vendors. And they decided that Brightspace was the best platform far and away for, adaptability and our functionality and our vision of the future in education, and just how great of a partner we were with them. So part of that, you get our analytics insights package. So a few things that come with that are really nice from the instructor side. First is the ability to get what we call the course overview widget. So from here in one screen, you can see how often students are signing into your course on a daily basis. You can look at the class engagement to see how are students actually doing in my classes? So the class progress tool is really nice for understanding individual tools, but this is kind of a more macro view of how the students are doing. From here, again, communication is really simple. If you want to focus on just the students who are struggling, you can highlight just those 2 students, select them all off, and then send them a quick email. You also have the ability to deselect. So this functionality is available everywhere in Brightspace, but quick email access to be able to select a group of students or all students at one time, send them one email right from here. That functionality was something that was really important to us.
And just to clarify, just because we're looking at a different tool now, everything we've shown you up until now is included within our core package. And you've probably, even the video classrooms tool, ePortfolio, things like that, those come at no additional charge. So this is probably our only add-on that would be of interest to you. And what Scott was alluding to there in terms of it coming, it being included. You guys actually get this for free for your first 2 years if you do sign up for like a 3 or 5 year contract. So this is sort of think of this as an additional tool, but the ENI contract sort of really loops it in with the full package.
Yeah, thanks, Shmuel. Another tool that comes with this, and it's one of my favorite tools, is our student success system, which is basically a predictive analytics tool that lets you know when there's any at-risk students. So again, another function of the package that comes with the ENI platform. So you can see all of your different students, where they're struggling and where they're doing well. This one is identified that Ethan is predicted to be at 46% for his final grade. And I can click in to see a really clear understanding of exactly what it is that's aligning him to be in a 46% range. So it's looking at his peers. All these dots here are peers within the course. It's looking at historical data of how students are doing in the course so far in the term and where they can predict to end up. We can also see their social interactions, so how they're engaging with their peers. The bigger the bubble, the more social interactions, and of course greens are good, reds are bad. And you can see that Ethan kind of sits off to the side here. So I could, maybe this is a great chance to align Ethan with one of the stronger students, maybe Michael Hughes, who's right at the core here, right? I can align them and get them working in group projects together so that they can start to support each other. The final piece that comes with the Insights package and the Eni platform is what we call our Insights portal. So Insights is taking all the data across all your different courses and rolling them into one visualization for you. So you can look at things like your login trends, how often students are accessing your different courses. You can look at tool usage. So in your courses, our students, I can filter in here, just click in to filter and see, are students using content more? Or are they using the assignments tool more? What functions of the system are they using at what time in the year? You can also see a comparison between all your different courses. So, are students in your English 101 course using more content than they are in your Lit 105, as an example? You can actually see a comparison across those two. You can also look at things like your engagement, so how engaged students are within the different tools. The really nice function of this is the comparative analysis of time and content versus grade. We always kind of assume that the more time you spend in content, the better grades you'll achieve. But this graph will actually outline that for you. So again, each dot is a student, so you can see how much time they spent versus the grade they're currently achieving. So again, getting a really clear understanding of how students are doing within your classes. And then finally, for anyone who's really heavy into assessments, the assessments quality dashboard actually allows you to see the reliability coefficients of all of your assessments that you're delivering. So if we look at, we'll just pick a quiz in one of our courses here, our Intro to Leadership quiz. As I click in, I can see all of the different questions that I've delivered, the question type, the correlation, and the top Lure response. So this is really important for nursing programs or any program that has any sort of accreditation purposes, any sort of accreditation where you're required to deliver sound assessments to your students to make sure that you're not misleading them in any way. These reports allow you to dig into all of that. You can share this information with any accrediting bodies that you need to, but we made it really easy to surface in a few clicks exactly how your grades or how your quizzes are being delivered and how students are performing on all your different quizzes. So again, this package is available. Really nice to be able to, gather your own insights and your own data, metrics on all your different courses. And so this is something that, when you look at it, you would only be looking at your own courses. You wouldn't be looking at anything beyond what you're teaching.
Mm-hmm. And as you can probably tell, the whole idea of the advanced analytic package is, we've made the platform as easy as possible for data gathering, for faculty adoption, and for basically everything, all the data to live within Brightspace Core. You have your raw data available to you within the Brightspace Core, but if the institution is going to moving towards making more data-driven decisions, this is kind of the tool or the dashboards, I should call them, that are going to help you guys with that. They're pre-built dashboards based on things that we know our clients are looking for. So it's probably the conversations that I'll have further with Tasha and Lisa, but we wanted to make sure that you all got a view into it. Any thoughts around Performance Plus, like any of the dashboards that you've just seen? Would you find them useful at this point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Any one of these that stuck out to you specifically?
I like the assessment tool.
The assessments?
Is there anything else anybody can think of? Any questions that you might have? Anything you want to see that you didn't see?
Lisa, do you mind repeating that and coming a little bit closer? Sorry about that.
Well, it was for the team here. I just was asking if there was anything that they would like to see that they didn't see, or any other questions that they had, or.
I have a question. You mentioned importing grades, but you only showed exporting. So is it easy to import from MyMathLab or WebAssign or Alex or these types of publisher created spreadsheets?
Absolutely, yeah. And actually, funny story, I actually worked for Cengage for 8 years before coming to the D2L, and actually worked in their integrations team. So working with, WebAssign and MindTap and platforms like that, and integrating them into the different systems. So in Brightspace, we are a standards-based platform, which means we adhere to all of the industry standards, which is the same as the third-party tools. So what you can actually do with Brightspace is, instead of having to import those grades in, we can actually set up an integration whereby the student completes the quiz or the assessment, say in WebAssign, and those grades can automatically flow into Brightspace. So when you look at your gradebook, if we were going to grades here, you could actually have a new section or a new category that would be maybe WebAssign. And all the different WebAssign assignments can be listed here. Again, whenever a student completes that grade just flows automatically and shows up here in Brightspace. We can also do in the content side of things. So if we go back into content, you can actually put in pointed links in here as well. So you can actually have a pointed link to the assignment within, say, WebAssign or MyMathLab. You can have a pointed link so that they click on it here in content. It's going to automatically open that assignment for them in WebAssign or MyMathLab. They complete it, and then again, the grade just shows up in the gradebook for you. Yeah, really easy configuration to set up. And the nice thing about that, not only do you not have to worry about import and export, but it also means the students don't need to remember their password for that platform. So with that integration, the first time they click a link, it'll ask them for a username and password. And then every time after that, whenever they click on one of those links, it's going to remember their login credentials. So they just click on it, it opens up, they complete, and they're done. They don't have to sign in, they don't have to go to a different site. You don't have to go to a different site, you don't have to import. We can handle all of that for you on the back end.
Another question about backing up and restoring for the next semester, and how that would work.
Yeah, so from an IT side of things, we automatically, as part of our core platform, will give you 30 days disaster recovery. So that's backups of everything that happens in the institution, all of your courses and content and grades and everything are stored on a separate server, so that if something should happen, we can always bring that back for you for the last 30 days. As far as archiving courses, so getting rid of older courses and kind of saving them to a different location, that's up to your administration team as far as how far back they want to give you access within the system. Typically, we see around 3 years worth of courses if you need to go back, but if you need to go longer, not a problem. We can give you as far back as you need. As far as copying content and moving from one semester to the next, let's go into this new course here. And I just want to show you quickly what the content copy looks like. So as an example, in this case, if through our student information system, I've automatically been given this new course build shell. It's a, say a winter course that I'm teaching and I need to bring something over from the fall semester. Through import course here, I have the option to import a course package. So if you're teaching a course at another institution, or maybe for some reason your course didn't come through from the first migration of all your courses, you can just drop a course package in here. It's a drag and drop. You just put the file in and it'll convert everything to Brightspace. The other option is to copy from an existing course. So again, if I want to copy, say, from my fall course, all I have to do is search for the course I want to copy from. In this case, I'll say maybe it's my English course, because I know I have some content there. Just going to add that selected. And then from here, I can copy all of the components. So just say I want a complete replica of that. The only thing that won't be there is student data. So it won't have any of the students or any of their grades, but all the gradebook settings, all the content, all the assessments, everything will just copy over to that new course. You can also copy select components. So really nice function here is that if, as an example, you built a quiz 2 years ago and you love the quiz and you want to use it again, you can actually go back to that course if you still have access and grab just that one individual quiz. Or if there's a rubric that you really liked, you can bring it forward. You can actually select any individual component within the course to bring forward. In this case, though, I'm going to say, copy from my English course here, and I'm just going to bring over all the components. So again, this will bring everything, announcements, gradebook settings, all the stuff that was in that old course. A nice function we built in, though, is the ability to automatically manage your dates from here as well. So when I go into review and manage dates, it's now going to allow me to offset my dates. I can, set them all one by one, or I can just use this bulk editing tool and say, I want to, either bulk edit and make them all the same, or I can bulk offset the dates. So again, if I was moving the course from from fall to winter, I can actually tell it to recalculate those dates between the new range. So I can say from maybe my course now runs from January 6th through until March 4th or May 4th, sorry. I click save, and now it's just going to offset all those dates to fit in that new window based on the old structure. So it knows if my assignments are always due on Wednesdays, if it was, my first assignment was October 1st now, or October 15th, now it's going to be March 15th. It's just going to shift everything forward to fit that new time frame. The other nice function of this is, say I copied into the winter, and now all of these assignments fall on spring break. I need to push that stuff forward by a week. You can just highlight those individual assignments, go up here to bulk offset dates again, and now I can actually just move them forward by 7 days. So now what it's going to do is take everything else, leave it the same, and just shift that content forward by 7 days. So now it fits in my March break.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So little things, right?
You can imagine how many problems you had.
Yeah.
Something this small.
Anything else anybody can think of? Something you'd like to see or?
Scott, what is this class list? Can you click on that? Is that like all the courses that you have in the, like all together, or is it just like for one?
That would be just for this one course. So it's just the list of all the users in the course.
Okay.
So
Okay.
again, for messaging purposes, I can email everybody. If I have groups set up, I can filter by the different groups.
Okay.
You can add users in. You can, if you have the capability, you can take users out. It's basically where you're going to go to manage kind of your overall class list to see everyone who's in your course.
Yeah, because I'm somewhat in charge of some of those things. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So again, a lot of this stuff is automated by the SIS as well, right? So these students will just show up. You won't have to add anybody in unless you need to add in like a TA or an advisor or somebody.
Okay.
With the email, is that a email system within Brightspace, or would that connect to our student email Outlook that we use?
Yeah, so again, that's a configuration. That'll be up to your administration team. Most commonly what we see is Brightspace is a send-only environment. So when you send a message from Brightspace, it'll actually just automatically go over to Outlook, and then the record is kind of the record stores in Outlook. So you can email from here, but then everything goes through Outlook. It goes to their Outlook inbox. You'll get a copy in your Outlook inbox, and then you can continue the communication from there. That's what we see as kind of the most typical integration. But yeah.
Well, I don't have it.
But there are
Some people.
a few people that won't like that,
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, the other thing I should mention here, with Outlook, we do have also the ability to integrate Office 365 quite nicely. So a couple things we can do as a homepage widget. You can give students access to their email, to their calendar, like their Outlook email, their Outlook calendar, as well as their OneDrive content. And then for file sharing, part of the Office 365 integration allows you to, as an instructor, you can share content from your OneDrive. So if you build everything there, you can just, upload your files from that. And students can also submit to their assignments from OneDrive. So if students are building their content in OneDrive, really easy to just submit from OneDrive and have that show up in the system.
Okay.
So you can access all of those within your LMS. Is there anything here that you guys are concerned about?
Mm,
No.
not off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Okay. How about anything that you're doing now on Moodle that you're afraid you may not be able to do, that we may not have shown you? Just while we're on, we may as well address those as well.
What we were just talking about with the email, in Moodle, we have something called Moodle Mail, where it's basically email that lives inside of Moodle. And then you have your regular messaging, which would go out outside the course, to your Outlook. We do have a few instructors that are pretty committed to using Moodle Mail. They like the fact that all the messaging is contained as part of the backup of the record. So if there's ever a grade appeal or anything like that, it all lives within the shell, and they don't have to go back to their emails to try to locate those things.
So we do also have an instant messaging service that's much like Moodle Mail. So the instant messaging service is all contained within Brightspace. It allows you to, that's all backed up. You can see a library of all the previous messages. And anywhere you want to message someone, again, you can do it in mass. So you can just send a mass instant message, or you can do just one at a time.
And how do they get notification of those messages?
Yep, so that would show up here at the top. So under the message alerts, there's a little orange dot that would show up and say, you've received a new instant message. They can click on it and then read it and have that communication that way.
And does it ever push out, like within Moodle, if I don't read a message within 30 minutes, it forwards out? Does Brightspace do that or no?
Not that I'm aware of, but I can look into that for you and see if it's a config setting we can put on.
All right, it's just a curiosity is all.
Yep, I can look into it for you and find out.
Anybody else? Anything else?
With the announcements, so the announcement would be the instructor posting something to the whole class. Does that get pushed out as an email as well, or is that again just something you only see once you've logged in?
So it automatically goes out as an email, but under notifications here, students can also configure how, based on announcements, they can also set up a text alert. So where it says SMS here, I can set up email and text if I had my text set up. So, if they want to get announcements coming in as text alerts, they can have that configured as well.
But is the default then that they do have the email is on for those notifications?
Yeah. So this email here is just for a secondary email. If they want to add in like a Gmail account as an example, they could add that in as a secondary email. So by default, it'll always go to their school email. And then here they can also set up a secondary email and or a text.
And that secondary email would still send to the school email and that secondary?
If they have this set up here, yeah.
Okay.
So by default, it's just school. This is configuring if they want text and secondary email is an optional setting. So students have to come in and configure this themselves.
Anything else you guys can think of? Anybody, anything right now?
Nope.
Well, thank you guys so much for your time today. I'm sorry we were a little slow in getting started.
Oh, that's totally okay.
But
No worries.
it was definitely worth our time. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And Shamal, I'll talk to you very soon.
For sure, for sure. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate the time.
All right,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Scott. Bye-bye.
Too.
Bye.